Good afternoon. This is the Torah on Parshas Behar, one of the last two Parshas in Sefer by Ikra, the third book of the Torah. Usually, this is read as part of a double Parsha, Parshas Behar B'chuzai. However, because this is a leap year, a 13-month year in the Hebrew calendar, they're read as individual Parshas. This week it will be read in Eretz Israel on Shabbat, and next week outside of Israel, Parshas Behar will be read. And this week they'll be reading the previous Parshas HaOmer. Now the Parsha is short, but it's quite significant. It begins by telling Shem commanding Moshe. Interestingly, it announces that it was done on Har Sinai, which is an interesting point in itself, because all the commandments were given at Har Sinai at this time. Jewish people were there for over a year after the giving of the Torah, and they certainly didn't get any halak, didn't get too many halakas elsewhere. There were some in the Bamidbar, in the desert, and many that are explained in Sefer Devarim, Sefer Deuteronomy, in the last 30 days of Moshe's life, just additional halakas. However, the place was primarily in Sinai. The Parsha then goes on to what Moshe is being commanded, is to tell the people that they can grow their crops, plant their vineyards for 6 years. In the seventh year, it's a year of letting the land lie fallow. It's referred to as a Sabbath of Hashem. Also, all debts are canceled that year that haven't been paid. And also, this is more detailed discussion, what already appeared in Parshas Mishpatim and Sefer Shmos. And it then goes on to say, you count 7 times, 7 Shemitah cycles, that means 7 7-year cycles, till you get to the number 49. There'll then be a 50th year, which will be a Yovel, Jubilee in English, where end of Yom Kippur will be proclaimed with the blow of a shofar that all land that was sold outside of a walled city will be returned, the ancestral lands will be returned to the original owner, and that people who have been Hebrew slaves, who had a 6-year period of service, were supposed to go out on the 7th, even if they said they want to stay with their masters. It said they stayed forever. That means until the Yovel year, when everybody was returned to their place, to their roots, to their land. Now, the Parsha then goes on to describe the method of redemption of land, and also putting one significant limit on it, that if it's a property within the walled city, it can only be redeemed for 1 year. It then goes on to say, talk about how if somebody falls on hard times and becomes indentured, it's an obligation to free him and then pay for his freedom, and then arrange the that's going to be calculated. And the Parsha then goes on at the end to discuss the following. It says, Lo tasu lechem elim v'pesel v'tzeva, lo tekeineu lechem even mashkit, v'lo tinaru v'artzachem v'shikavos leha ki anoya lechem. You shall not make idols for yourself, and you shall not erect them Rather for yourselves a statue of a pillar. And in land you should not, in a place of flooring stone on which to prostrate oneself. For I am Hashem, your God. And then it goes on to say, Et Shabbati Tashamru Migdashi Tira'u Ani Adonai. Sabbath shall observe, my sanctuary shall you receive, I am Hashem. So again, we have the same concept of that we started with, Sabbath. And it's three fundamental principles here. One, you shouldn't worship idols, and you don't lean on bow on stone floors. That's why our covering is put down even when we do bow on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And two other fundamental ones, keeping the Sabbath and my sanctuary, the Mishkan, and then the Beit HaMikdash, Bati Mikdashim, the temples, and in their absence, Lokvei Bati Knessim, Lokvei Bati Midrashim. And I would like to focus now on two concepts here. One of those is at the beginning of the Parsha. It mentions, it says, V'diber Adonai el Moshe Behar Sinai Lamor. And it says, Hashem spoke to Moshe on Mount Sinai saying, now it then goes on to the command of Shemitah. But it's very interesting. Why does it have to tell us that it's, why does it have to tell us that it's in our Sinai? The Jews were on Sinai from the middle of Sefer Shmos to the end of Sefer Vayikra. They don't leave, and they've been there at Sinai a year, learning all the laws, mitzvahs, and it's only at the end of the first year that they leave it all and start going into the Bamidbar with the original plan for them to be entering Eretz Yisrael within a year. Due to later events of the Meraglim, the spies that got put up for till the 40th year. In any event, they had, after 40, they had all the laws in Sinai. So there's many explanations, but two I'd like to focus on. One explanation is that we got the Torah at Sinai on Shavuos, which was the 50th day. From there, we note that 40 days later, approximately, they miscalculated when Moshe went up to Har Sinai, and they built the Egel Zahav, the golden calf, and worshipped it. That, in a sense, abrogated the covenant that Hashem had made with Moshe and the Jewish people on Shavuos. And in a sense, the first tablets were destroyed by Moshe when he saw the idol worship in the camp. And then, later on, Hashem tells Moshe to carve a new set of stone tablets and to go up, the first one made by Hashem, directly to go up and to give the Sefiros of Sefiros again, which, so therefore, in giving the second set of Sefiros of Sefiros, Hashem renewed the Brit covenant with Moshe Rabbeinu and the Jewish people, and therefore, one of the mitzvahs that was given and to signify this renewal is in Parshat Behar. It's the renewal of the covenant. Now, on another level, it's also to explain, and again, this was one concept, the Brit, of a covenant between Hashem and his people. And another explanation that's given a number of sources, including the Zohar, is that the mitzvahs that are being given here of Shemitah, to say, laying the land following the seventh year, canceling debts, and in the 49th year, are so fundamental to the Jewish people's continuance in Eretz Israel, that it's specifically to indicate that how significant they are. It mentions Har Sinai, that they were given Har Sinai to underline their special significance. Now, we also see a concept in the HaOmer that it's the counting of 49 days and leading to the 50th day, that it's only by the mitzvah of Sefiros HaOmer, which is considered, is referred to as a brit, that Avraham Avinu and his descendants merit being in Eretz Israel. And we see a connection here, which I'm going to get to in a minute, of 49 days, and 50th day being a holy day. And we see the same thing with Shemitah, because one of the reasons we were exiled at the end of the First Temple era is because we did not keep the Shemitah years. It did not mean that we did not keep the Shemitah years at all. What it does mean is we didn't use it as a year to get closer to Hashem, to learn His Torah, and therefore the land, we were in exile for 70 years under Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonians, and the Persians, to let the land be properly rested, and for us to return to Hashem through the exile. And therefore, and with Shemitah, with the Yovel, that was a culmination of not only Yovel, the Shemitah's years. It's a year in its own right, a year of freedom, a year of liberation, as well as trusting in Hashem by letting the land lie fallow. Now, a question that can arise here: what is the connection between Sefiros HaOmer and Yovel, which is based on Shemitah years, cycles? Now, one answer that is given to this is brought by the Bnei Yissaschar from a Sefer, Nechmad Sada, which was written by a Rishon Menachem ben Aaron ibn Zerah, in which he explains that there is a parallel between the two. In the case of Shemitah, of Sefiros HaOmer, it gets us to a new spiritual level where we can renew our neshamas and elevate ourselves, purify ourselves in those 49 days so that we merited the Torah on the 50th day. The second, and so what's the connection with Yovel, Jubilee year? is that the Sefiros HaOmer gives us spiritual elevation, and the Shemitah year and the 49 years goes with it, gives us back to ourselves, gives us back to spiritual matters on the 50th day. It's matters of our physicality, of our goof. And therefore, that is a connection. Interestingly enough, they both connect to the 50th. One, it's Matan Torah, the spiritual reception, and the case of Yovel, it's a more physical liberation. It allows us to get back to our roots. Now, in next week's Torah, which we'll be discussing Parshat, and the meaning of it, I'm going to be continuing discussion of what is the significance of the number 50 to Nun with both Sefiros HaOmer and Shemitah. May you have a good Shabbos and Shabbat Shalom.